Okay, when you picture Gandhi, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's his fasting, right? But what if I told you the very first time he used it as a political weapon, it was in this wild industrial dispute? We're talking brother against sister, and Gandhi squaring off against the one man who had, get this, saved his entire mission in India. Yeah, let's get into this incredible and kinda overlooked story from 1918 in Ahmedabad.
So it all kicks off with a single number, 75%. See, back in 1917, a really deadly plague hits Ahmedabad. The city's textile mill owners are panicking, thinking their entire workforce is just going to up and leave. So they come up with this massive plague bonus, a whopping 75% raise, just to get people to stay put. This wasn't generosity. This was pure desperation.
Okay, so fast forward to January 1918. The plague's over, and what's the first thing the owners do? They yank that bonus. Gone. In its place, they offer a 20% pay bump. But, with wartime inflation going crazy, the workers are like, hold on, this is actually a pay cut. They needed 35% just to keep up. And just like that, the battle lines were drawn.
But here's the thing. This was so much more than just a fight about money. It was personal. It was family. And as you're about to see, this conflict was about to get real, testing everyone's loyalty and principles.
So let's look at how this all happened. A plague, a bonus, a fight. How does a health scare turn into this massive historic labor showdown? Let's dig in.
You really have to understand what was going on. I mean, by November of 1917, 550 people were dead. The city was shutting down, schools, offices, everything. People were fleeing in a total panic. So that 75% bonus? Yeah, that wasn't about being nice. It was about pure survival for the mill owners. They had to keep the looms running.
And that brings us to the Babul Tree standoff. Talks completely broke down, and on February 22, 1918, the strike was on. But this wasn't going to be your average strike. No way. Gandhi saw this as a chance to put his whole philosophy of nonviolent resistance, Satyagraha, to the test.
And they had this incredible ritual. Every single afternoon, all the striking workers would meet under this Babul tree, right on the banks of the Sarabhai River. Imagine that. Thousands of people, united, listening to Gandhi, singing songs written just for their cause. It became the living, breathing heart of the whole movement.
And they had very strict rules for the strike. Gandhi and his partner in this, Anasuya Sarabhai, handed out leaflets with the code of conduct. No violence, no causing trouble. And this is huge. No divisions between Hindu or Muslim, Gujarati or Madrasi. And get this, do not harm the mill owner's property. This was about taking the high road. It was a moral fight, not just a physical one.
And here's where it gets really dramatic. Let's talk about the opponents. On one side, you have the leader of the mill owners, a guy named Ambalal Sarabhai. And on the other side, leading the workers, his own sister, Anasuya Sarabhai. She was this amazing social worker, totally dedicated to the workers' families, and now she was their champion, going head-to-head with her own brother. Wild, right?
Gandhi, of course, knew exactly how powerful this family angle was. Early in the strike, he writes a letter to Ambalal, the mill owner, and asks him, how could a brother be the cause of suffering to a sister? Wow. He wasn't just talking numbers and wages anymore. He was making it personal, hitting him right in the conscience. But here's the thing about nonviolent resistance. It's really, really hard. It takes incredible discipline. And now we get to a crisis of faith. By the third week, things were getting desperate. The workers were starving, their families were starving, and their resolve, well, it was starting to crumble.
And you can see it right here in the attendance numbers. Those daily meetings under the tree, they went from thousands of people, fired up and ready to go, down to just a few hundred. Hope was fading, fast. People were getting hungry, they were getting beaten down, and some were starting to sneak back to the mills, willing to take whatever they could get. And then it happened. The moment that flipped the whole thing on its head. One of the workers, just filled with bitterness, basically says, Gandhiji and Anasuya-ben, they come and go in their fancy car. They have plenty to eat. But for us, we're literally starving to death. He called them out. For him, this was life or death, and it looked like the leaders were just fine. So now, it's time for a fast to force the issue. When Gandhi heard what that worker said, it stung him. It absolutely cut him to the core, because he knew the worker was right. And in that moment, he realized that to save this strike, he had to do something extreme, something that showed he was right there with them in their suffering.
Yeah, the accounts say he was just
stung by the truth in those words. So on March 15th, he stands up in front of what's left of the strikers, and he makes this incredible announcement. He tells them he will not eat a single bite of food until a deal is made. He was doing it, he said, to keep all 10,000 of them from falling, from breaking their promise to each other. And you have to understand how groundbreaking this was. I mean, fasting was an ancient religious thing, sure, but a political fast? Using self-starvation not just for your own soul, but as a weapon for social and political change? This was the first time. Right here, in this moment, Gandhi literally invents one of the most powerful tools in his arsenal.
And this leads us to what you could call a complicated victory, because the impact of that fast, it was instant, it was overwhelming. The moral pressure on the mill owners, especially on Ambalal's Sarabhai, who considered Gandhi a friend, it just became too much to bear.
And the resolution came so quickly. First, Gandhi's fast just cranks up the pressure to an insane level. Then, on the fourth day, Ambalal's Sarabhai cracks. He agrees to arbitration. They hammer out this kind of complicated temporary deal, 35% on day 1, 20% on day 2, just to get everyone back to work. And then, a little while later, the arbitrator comes back and gives the workers the full 35% they wanted all along. A complete and total win. But wait, the story's not over. There is one last absolutely incredible twist to all of this, because that relationship between Gandhi and the mill owner he just took down, Ambalal Sarabhai, it's a lot more complicated than you think. Check out this timeline. This is what I'm calling the Gandhi-Sarabhai Paradox. Back in 1915, Gandhi's new ashram is about to go bankrupt. All of a sudden, a car pulls up and some anonymous guy gets out, hands over 13,000 rupees, which was a fortune back then, and just saves the whole thing. And who was that guy? It was Ambalal Sarabhai. 3 years later, in 1918, Gandhi leads a strike that brings that very same man's business to its knees. The man he was fighting was the same man who had saved him.
So it all leaves you with this one kind of staggering question, right? What happens when your greatest ally becomes your greatest opponent? This strike in Ahmedabad, it was never just about the money. It was about friendship, it was about family, it was about what justice even means. And it really makes you wonder, what does it take to stick to your principles, especially when it means going up against the one person who helped you get started in the first place?